everybody, welcome back to Beauty Bees. I'm Iris. Today I'm doing a 2 looks 1 palette using the Orchid You Not from Colourpop. I just purchased this during Colourpop's Black Friday, Cyber Monday, somewhere in their sale. It was $5. I've been eyeing this pretty much since it came out. Here's what the palette looks like if you have not seen it before. And with that, I think I will let Iris from yesterday show you a first look. Wow, my face looks so flat and featureless. Let's get some eyeshadow on and change that. My thought for today is that I want to do a little bit more of a subtle glam look. I want a little bit of sparkle on the lid, maybe some depth right around the lashes. But I want it to be like something you could wear to a holiday party with a really bold lip. I'm kind of eyeing like a deep burgundy for this look, but we'll see where things take us. I think I'm going to start by building out the crease a little bit. I'm going to go in with Ada, which is this shade right here. There are sort of three, well, I would say two pretty similar depth burgundy crease colors. I would say that one of them is a little bit more reddish and one of them is a little bit more violet, but I don't necessarily know that they needed both of them in there. So I'm just wedging that in the deepest part of my crease. I'm not worrying too much about neatness because there are going to be a couple of other colors that get blended in there, both above and then below on the lid. So I'm just gonna mess with that with my finger a little bit because I had a little bald patch. Okay, now above that, I'm going in with this tiny little crease brush. And I think I'm going to use Rebloom, which is this more lilac. What is this shade even? Mauve? I don't know. It looks promising. I'm going to try to blend out the edges of that. Hey, sweetheart. Do you want your makeup done? I think that was a no. Okay, so that did blend out pretty nicely. I wish there was a little bit of a lighter shade in here. I could use like a really pale pink, but you know, I could always pull that in on another day. I'm just really trying to use just this palette for the sake of the video. And goodness knows, I have plenty of nice light eyeshadows in my stash. So for the lid, because I don't want to go super pink with this look, I think I'm going to go into this neutral shade, which is Pretty One. I'm gonna try it with a brush first. I might end up amping it up a little bit using my finger, but we'll see what it looks like with the brush first. I mean, that is pretty. I feel like this is more violet and less burgundy violet than I intended. The look as a whole, not the eyeshadow. The eyeshadow I think is a sort of lilac beige shade. It's very pretty. Kind of an interesting neutral. I don't know that I have anything super similar to this elsewhere in my stash, which is of course always nice to see. And at this point, I'm again wishing that I had something a little bit lighter in this palette, because I feel like it would be nice to have maybe a shade like this, but quite a bit lighter to pop in my inner corner. But I think that for the moment, that's looking okay. Now let's go into a little bit of Buddies, which is the second deepest shade in this palette. It's more of a cool toned purple, and I'm just going to put a little bit of that in my outer corner. To give me a little bit more definition, a little bit more shape there. And I think I'm going to use the same shade, actually on the same little smudger brush, maybe mixed with a little bit of Pretty One, which is the neutral, and put that along my lower lash line. Okay, so I do like where that is at. I'm sitting in a little bit of a different spot in my filming location today. I've just shifted, 90 degrees about. This is the closet that you're usually looking at. My new camera, which is just my new phone, it hates the texture of these closet doors. In the last video, I noticed that it was just waving. It was making me a little bit seasick when I really focused on that portion of the screen. So we're trying something new. I don't think the lighting is great, but we'll adjust going forward. So for my lash line, my upper lash line, I want to use a little bit of Nuh-Uh, the deepest shade in the palette, on a little angled liner brush. I'm just gonna stamp that right at my lash line. I just want that additional bit of depth because I really want this eye look to be nicely grounded, because I am going to go in with a deeper lip. Tomorrow, I think we'll try to lean into something a little bit more fun. Probably bring in these two shades, go more of a pink route, but today we're trying holiday party glam. I went a little bit higher with it, with that liner shade, than I wanted to on this side, but we're just gonna roll with it because I don't really feel like undoing anything right now. You know what? I do kind of like the depth, so let's just commit the eyeliner fallacy. I feel like we haven't talked about that in a while, but that is what I like to call the thought when you're doing especially winged eyeliner of, oh, this side's a little bit longer than this side, so I'll just put a little bit more here. And then you're like, oh, but now this side's longer, so I'm gonna add some more here. And you started with the idea of a subtle little wing, and then suddenly you've got eyeliner going out to here, because just incrementally you decided you needed to add a little bit more. But I think that I've stopped at a reasonable-ish point. So my eyeshadow looks a little bit muddy. That's on me rather than on the eyeshadow. But I think it's going to look really quite pretty. Let me put some mascara on, finish the rest of my face, and we will be back to take a look at the final product. So I feel like I'm one of those spot the differences puzzles that you see in like Highlights magazine now, I acknowledged finally that this look was not pulling burgundy at all like I had originally planned for it to. So I switched my headband out for the same headband but in black. I've put my hair back because I don't know, it just wasn't really working with the headband, and I've added quite an amalgamation of things to the lips. So I started out with the burgundy sort of lipstick that I was originally planning on wearing. This is Wild Berry from Flower Beauty. It is a deeper berry toned red. Then I was like, wow, this doesn't go with the eye look at all. Let's move this a little bit more mauve, a little bit more nude. So I added some Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Medium on top of it. And it still wasn't the right color in the slightest. So I added a bunch of Berry Haute from Revlon, which is providing, I think, probably 2/3 of the color that is now on my lips. So lots of lipstick that I'm wearing right now, and that's really all on top of the Too Faced Hangover Pillow Balm, is that what they're called? That I was already wearing when I started the video. So this is the almost final look. I wanted to show you what things looked like with just the products from the Orchid You Not palette and mascara on my eyes. I've also done some contouring. I've put on some highlighter. I'm not wearing any blush because I just felt like that was going to end up looking like too much. I am going to add some of the same highlighter that I use, which is this, it's a Small World highlighter, Jubilant Chorus from Colourpop. I love this. I've hit pan in it. It's a beautiful, beautiful shade. It's like a white with a little bit of beige mixed in, but it's still cool tone, which I think is just beautiful. Absolutely stunning. I was going to buy it anyway because it was the little clock face from It's a Small World, and I love It's a Small World. But it had also ended up being like one of my absolute favorite Colourpop products. So big wins all around. And I'm just going to put a little bit of that on use a little bit of that to highlight my brow bone. I feel like that helps. It sort of creates a line where the other eyeshadow, the purple, ends. And I'm going to put a little bit of it right in my inner corner to brighten things up. And there we have the actual final look. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Wasn't what I had in mind, but I can be happy with it all the same. I will see you for my look again tomorrow. All right, time for look number 2. If look number 1 was more of a holiday party kind of look, look number 2 is going to be more how I would actually wear this palette day to day. And I think I'm going to do something pretty easy. I'm going to start with Of All Purple, which is this more pink shade in the palette. I'm just taking that on my finger, and I'm going to put that over the inner half of my lid. I did bring out brushes for this look, but I don't know if I'm actually going to really end up using them. Then I'm going to take OMG, which is a little bit deeper and more reddish. I'm going to put that over the outer half of my lid. And you know what? There's not enough contrast there between those two colors. I thought that was going to contrast a little bit more nicely than it ended up doing. Okay, well, let's go with Seedling then instead, which is another step deeper. Yeah, I think that's really the best option I have, because I do want it to be a contrast between the inner and outer half of my lid. And that still isn't very contrasting. I feel like for this look to work, there really needs to be a nice color differential, and there just isn't between these three shades. Let me swatch them out and show you. I mean, certainly they are not the same shade. But those two are too similar to really give nice contrast to one another on the lid. These two are too similar. And these two, I mean, they aren't super similar, but they also just don't really complement one another. Okay. Well, we're just gonna at least get this to a point where the two halves of my face match. Let's see if I can't use Pretty One to offset the two colors a little bit. If I just put a little touch of that right in the middle of the lid. I mean, that's helping. That's definitely helping. And again, I'm really wishing that I had a lighter shade here. If I had like almost like a white purple shimmery shade, I feel like I could pop that right in the middle and it would make like a super easy little halo eye and really just pull this whole thing together. But I don't really have that. I feel like the only light shade in this palette is Of All Purple. And that's not a super light shade. Yeah, everything else is sort of medium to deep, and that could be great for some people. I want to be clear on that. That could be absolutely awesome for you if you have a deeper skin tone. I just don't. I like something a little bit lighter. I find that easier to work with. So because I did end up going a little bit heavier on the upper lid than I intended originally, I want to do a little bit of Rebloom, which is the shade on the lower lash line. I'm just bringing out a little smudger brush for that. Well, I do have some fallout, which that is probably on me rather than on the palette, because I do apply often with my fingers, and that's not exactly how you minimize fallout. But that brushed away largely. I do still have some extra shadow over here. I will clean that up and put on some mascara, and we'll be back to finish the rest of my face. Okay, so I cleaned things up a little bit. I put on some mascara, and on camera, I like how this is looking. In person, not a big fan. I feel like it looks a little bit like Neapolitan ice cream, because this Pretty One shade was just a little bit too dark for how I wanted to use it. I do already, I mean, I've I've had on this Patrick Ta gloss in 2ccs, which I'm just going to keep with. I think it looks pretty. I'm also going to add just a little bit of blush, and that's going to finish off this look entirely. I am using one from Purely, which I think is called maybe Plumeria, but I will check in just a second. I don't know where the name of this is. Pretty Plum is the shade name on this, and I love this blush. I think it's beautiful. I should probably get to blending this before it sets down and, oh wait, that's just dots on my cheek. Okay. Maybe a tad bit more. Just a tiniest little dot to put on the bridge of my nose. Okay. So I think I look pretty on camera. I think I look okay in person. So I'm not upset with how the whole look turned out. I think I look okay. I'm not going to like take off this makeup before I film the Project Polish update that I need to get up today. But I'm not thrilled with this look. I'm really not super thrilled with this palette overall. I think that the individual shades are very pretty. The quality is okay to good. I don't think that it is Colourpop's best quality, but it's not bad. There is some fallout with the shimmers. The mattes are pretty nice. They are quite pigmented. I found that they blended pretty well. The shimmers, I think, left a little bit to be desired. I don't think they are as almost wet to the touch as some of Colourpop's other shimmers are. And like I said, there is some fallout. I have had this shade already pop out of the palette. That's why it looks kind of janky, as I've had to press it back in just with my finger. But overall, it is a pretty set of shades. I just don't feel like this is a particularly complete palette for me. I know I've harped on and on about how I wish that there was something a little bit lighter. I also wish that the shimmer shades complemented each other a little bit better. I feel like these three are all very similar in depth, and I think that kind of limits you as to how you could use them in a look together. And then this shade right here, I think is just so much more cool toned and lilac than everything else that it doesn't, I feel, mesh that well. You're walking a pretty fine line, right? Because you don't want to have something that is so similar to everything else that's not adding something to the palette. And it is eye-catching here in this palette because of that. However, I don't think that it really goes all that well with quite a few of the other shades in here. I feel like it goes all right with this shade, and this shade. So most of the mattes it works pretty well with, but I don't feel like it really jives with any of the shimmers. I wish that they had gone with something a little bit warmer here. I feel like they could have done like a gold shade, and it wouldn't have been a monochromatic palette then, but I mean, it wasn't really a monochromatic palette to start with if you have this sort of silvery lilac shade over here. But I feel like a gold would have balanced things out a little bit better. I have quite a few different Colourpop palettes. I might actually just switch this out for a gold from one of them and see if I get more use out of this palette in that way. I feel like that would just be really helpful. So I'm not disappointed that I purchased this palette. It's something I'm going to continue to use. I was really happy with my look yesterday. I thought that it really made my eyes pop. A couple of times, like I walked into the bathroom, saw myself in the mirror, and was like, ooh, that's cute. And that's always a good feeling. I think that for $5, which is what I purchased this for on sale, This is a really pretty collection of shades. There are definitely shades in here that I don't have anywhere else in my collection. And I think I will get some good use out of it, just probably not as a standalone palette very often. I'm sure that I will talk about it again sometime on my channel, and I'd be really interested if you have this palette, if you've tried it out, to let me know what you thought. Did you feel the same way? Is it your favorite palette ever? Is it absolute garbage in your estimation? Let me know. Very interested in your guys' thoughts as always. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed, and I hope I see you guys in the next one. Bye y'all.